Hey guys, how's it going? So welcome to our first video, official video for this Casters Week we're doing. So this is going to be a video going over the basic rules and ideas behind the Casters game that's going to be coming out soon here. It's already been released in Japan. And so we're going to go over the basic rules. We'll have another video coming out most likely tomorrow going over both these rules more in depthly and other things, just more comprehensive look, especially if you want to just really make sure you're playing the game correctly. But this is a nice sort of jumping point if you just want to get going into the game as quickly as possible and don't need to know the intricacies and all that. This is a good jumping off point. And I'm here with Oscar.
What's up, guys?
He's cool.
I'm super cool.
But anything you want to say before we jump in here?
The game looks interesting. I'm definitely super excited to see to play it. I don't know if we're gonna buy product or not. Are we?
Probably. I don't know if we'll do it right away or what. It's sort of up in the air. We'll see how it goes. If it's something you guys want to see, you want to see openings, you want to see actual physical gameplay outside of the Lackey games we'll be doing later this week, let us know. And that might be something we look into.
But no, yeah, it's interesting. I've seen it compared to like Kaijudo, or I've compared it to like say certain aspects or like Pokemon.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a hybrid of a bunch of different things. It's got the ether, the will, essentially inside of the deck like Magic, but it also solves some of the problems of Magic, such as being mana starved and stuff like that. It solves that, but you can still get mana flooded. But yeah.
Cool, let's get into it.
So we'll start off with the zones because it's a nice sort of in general jumping off point. So you can see right here, so this is the game field. So up here you have your deck zone, obviously where your deck goes, your graveyard. Down at the bottom is your caster zone. This is where you'll be placing your casters. We'll get into that obviously as we go along here. On the left side is your orb zone. There will be 7 cards total here face down. If you've ever played Pokemon, it's basically just the prize card zone from Pokemon. And the big majority of this play zone is the servant zone, which is basically like resonators or creatures, whatever game you're from or have played before. That's where your things that attack and defend go.
As well as barriers, which are like additions, correct?
Yeah, they're like field additions and Enforce Will in Magic, I think they're called. Are they additions? I don't know what they're called. Field cards is the
we don't play Magic, so
yeah. And Pokemon is just fields, right?
Yep, stadium card.
Yep. Stadium, whatever. But yeah, so going into the specifics of the terminology, so servants, like I said, are like resonators or creatures. They're your attackers and your blockers. Pretty straightforward there. And Oscar, stop me at any point if there's anything you think should be explained more to our fellow viewers.
Yeah, no, that's really why I'm here, just to kind of be y'all trying to talk to Colin and
he's the
clarify
surrogate,
things.
like when you watch a movie and it's an alien movie and there's a random human character who's new to the agency and doesn't know about these aliens, so you get to learn with that character. That's what Oscar is.
They're the explaining person. What's the word for that?
Expositional.
There you go.
Person. Yeah, I dare you to find a weird movie like that does not have a character like that. Anyways, though, conjure. So conjures are just spells in Force of Will. They're your chants. I think they're just called chants now. Yeah, because they used to be spells, which is what Magic calls them.
No, they were chants or enchant quick cast, and they changed the name just to straight up chant. Is what that was.
Okay. It was instant and stuff like that. But yeah, you're right. And Magic, I think it's just, what is it in Magic? Spells?
I believe so.
Something like that. And then there is barriers, which are like, as we had mentioned before, they're like field additions. So they apply field sweeping effects that go on the field. And the last one is your casters. So this, not a whole lot of types of cards, but yes, the last one is casters. So these are the cards you play down that produce ether. Now, ether in this game is its version of will or mana or what have you. And so these casters are played down, and they sometimes have their own effects that, in addition to producing the ether, sometimes it's separate from the ether. Sometimes it might be a passive thing. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward how they work. You place them down in the caster zone, tap them, and they produce ether. And you can also do other things with that zone, but we'll get into that once we get into the comprehensive video. But that's the basic gist of all that.
Also, they're called instants. I'm guessing. Does that mean instant spell or just instant?
Instant inside of this game.
No, I'm talking about the magic thing.
Magic? Oh, I don't know.
I got hung up on it. Also, is there quick cast spells in here?
Yes, there is themes with quick cast, which will come in handy with how some other stuff works that we'll get into in just a sec.
And is it ether or aether?
I'm pretty sure it's always been pronounced ether for me, but it could be aether.
Let us know in the comments below which one you prefer, guys.
But only spell it the way it's spelled when you're explaining how it's pronounced.
Yeah, so spell it A-ther or E-ther.
And so there's 3 different types of positions your servants can be in once they're on the field. So they can either be recovered, which they're just up normal like this in this picture, rested like that, is pretty common stuff, or this new one, which I don't see very often, or I don't think I've ever seen, which is reverse, which they're now upside down facing your opponent. And kind of weird, but when I get into the explanation of battling here in a little bit, you'll see why that comes in handy. So the card themselves, all the cards have a cost in the upper left-hand corner. You can see 1, 2, 3, and so on. So that's the amount, obviously, of ether you need to produce to pay for the card. In the case of this card, you can see it's a red attribute card. So what that means is all you need is one caster who produces red, and you need to tap it down to produce 1 red ether. And then you can tap down any other colors or any void colors, anything like that, to produce the remaining 2 you need for, like, say, this 3 cost. So the nice thing about that is it makes both, obviously, mono decks are very easy, as we'll get into in the comprehensive video, we'll get into that. But multicolor decks are extremely easy because unlike, say, Force of Will, where you might have to produce 3 red and 2 void, or 3 red and 2 blue, or something like that, if it's a red card, you just need 1 red and then a bunch of other just random casters that produce any type of ether. So that's kind of interesting and kind of nice about it.
Helps you do multicolored decks, huh?
Yeah, you could probably very easily do a large amount of multi-attributes. Oh, maybe not as easily because you don't have that consistent pulling like, say, Force of Will does. However, you do have the consistent ability to play, say, certain color cards depending on how prevalent certain colors are in the deck. It might be really good to play, like, say, a deck that runs 80% of red and then 10% blue and 10% black, just because of how that works, perhaps. We'll see, though. We'll see as we get into it. And the chase inside of here works the same as Force of Will. So if you're unfamiliar with chase is how different things stack, abilities and chance and different things like that when you're doing sort of a battle of magic, almost. So say you tap a servant or a caster to play one of their abilities targeting a servant. In response, you would play a chant with a quick cast speed. In response, they could do a chant or another ability and different things like that, as long as they're at that instant speed. And in this case, it's like Force of Will, where once everyone is done stacking with each chant over and over again, it resolves backwards. So this very most recent chant, for example, that they did, resolves first, followed by the next one, and so forth until you get all the way back to the bottom of the chase. So if I tapped a caster that said, this isn't what any of them do, I'm just going to throw stuff out there, but if you say tapped a caster that said, destroy target servant, in response you tapped some ether to play a chant that said target servant can't be destroyed till end of turn, and then that one that gives your target servant it can't be destroyed until end of turn would resolve first, which would make that this ability that's now behind it fizzle out because it now doesn't target anything that is able to have its full effect go through. So that's the quick and simple version of how the chase works. If you played Force of Will, obviously you'll be familiar with that. Moving on to battling. So battling in here is pretty interesting. Once you enter your battle phase, you have to attack with every single servant on the field. You don't have a choice. As long as they're recovered and are able to attack, no abilities or anything like that are inhibiting them with them, you have to attack with them. So if you have 5 servants, you get to choose which order they attack in. So you can say, I will attack with him first, and then him, and so forth. But they all have to attack at some point before you exit the battle phase.
And is that in their recovered state or also in their reverse state?
Like yours in the reverse state?
Right.
They wouldn't be in the reverse state because when it comes to your turn, you recover all of your servants and all that. So they would be back in their normal state.
Oh, okay.
And when you attack, you can choose to attack either the player themselves or a servant. It doesn't matter what position the servant is in. If they're recovered, rested, or reversed, you can attack them. If they have a servant that is in a reverse position, though, you cannot attack the player themselves. You have to attack servants until said reverse position is off of the field. Now, if you actually are able to succeed in hitting the player themselves, then you, the attacker, get to choose one orb that gets to be destroyed, and by destroyed, it leaves their field and goes into their hand. Now, if you are able to destroy all 7 of their orbs, and you go to attack for an 8th time, that 8th time is what kills
And
them.
you can actually win by decking out, right? Like not you decking out, but you decking your opponent out.
Correct. So it works like most card games where once you go through your deck, if you happen to go and have to draw a card and there's no cards for you to draw from inside of your deck, you automatically lose, which is, I think, is pretty much universal across most card games.
Pretty much.
Yeah, and so speaking of going back to the orb zone, there is one thing on these cards you'll notice that says break. A couple of cards have these, and basically all this means is if you go and have one of your orbs is destroyed and you grab it and it goes to your hand, if it has that break symbol on it, you have the option to immediately play that card for free, no matter what, as long as you're able to legally play it. You don't have to if you, for whatever reason, decide to put it in your hand and save it for later, but you will lose the ability to play that card for free as soon as you decide to do that. As far as going back to the battling and how that works, battling damage does not stick as far as we can tell. No, there isn't any deal 500 damage. If you deal battle with another servant, they don't stick that 1,000 damage you did to them, for example, when they have 2,000 defense. It's just either they're dead or they're not. So in the case of any servant you attack that's either recovered or rested, and you attack them, you compare both of your attack stats. If your attack is higher than theirs, their servant is destroyed. If your attacks end up being equal or their attack ends up being greater, just nothing happens. It's a wash and you just keep moving on. Now, if their servant is in reverse position, when you go to attack it, you compare your attack and its defense, and then the same thing happens. If yours is greater than their defense, it dies. Otherwise, nothing happens. So it's pretty straightforward. There's no weird complex things of damage calculation and damage dealing. It's just they're dead or they're not. Obviously, you can place different conjures and stuff that might buff them in response to keep them from dying. But you'll never do a conjure that buffs them to be able to destroy their servant. You can only do things that directly say destroy servant. So yeah, we'll real quick briefly go into how you start playing a game, and we'll just briefly go over that, and and like I said, we'll go into all this more in depth in our next video. But so basically, say you want to go start a game, here's the order of things you do and how you do them. So first, you roll a set of dice. It would be the most common way to do this, to decide who goes first. Whoever rolls the highest amount has to go first. Similar to Force of Will, you don't have a choice, you just go first. The player going second gets an energized coin that counts for 1 void color ether that can be produced for just a void. So it can't, on its own, it could never, as far as I can tell, there's no void cards inside of this game. So it could never play a card on its own. It has to be paired with some type of caster. But it's still pretty good, as you only need to produce 1 color, like I said, so it's really not that much of a detriment.
And if you guys pick up a starter deck, it comes with the coin included.
I didn't know that. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get it started. I'll probably get it started.
It's for the record, it's not an actual coin. It's a card that looks like a coin. We'll have it on the screen.
Yeah, it's right there. I totally was prepared to put that there.
I was searching it right now.
All right, after you decide that, you guys, obviously your decks and stuff are shuffled. You guys draw 7 cards for your hand, And after you draw 7 cards, you take 7 cards off the top of your deck and put them face down in your orb zone. And then you look at your 7 cards in your hand and do your mulligan. And mulligan, you choose however many cards you want, 1 to 7, put them at the bottom of your deck and draw that many same cards. So the mulligan works same as Force of Will. Just make sure you do it after you've put your orbs in your zone, not before. That's very important. And then after you do that, you can start playing. So how the phases... Oh, and a quick note, if you're the player going first, if you put down servants, they cannot attack during that first turn. Going forward, they'll always be able to attack, but during that first turn, they do not. But going forward after that, the phases go, after your opponent passes, you recover. It's the recovery phase, you recover everything. Then it switches to draw phase, so you draw for turn. Then it comes to your call for caster phase, where you get to put a caster down into your field or upgrade a caster. Switches to your main phase. This is where you can play different conjures, servants, different things like that. Any random stuff you want to do. Then it switches to your battle phase. Like I said, you have to attack with everything you got. Do whatever cool battles are going on there. And then it switches to your end phase. Whatever triggers were happening for the end of turn. That last to end of turn end, any ether you have produced disappears and it transfers to your opponent's turn. And so yeah, you could pretty much start playing with just this basic guide right here. But like I said, there's a lot of more intricacies and stuff like that we'll go over in the next video. If you guys are too impatient to watch 2 videos, you can go ahead and get started. And then once you have questions and stuff, you can come back for the second video. Right, Oscar?
I agree. Where I'm a little bit more useful in it. I'll be playing the game with you, right?
Yeah, we'll be going over a lot of stuff and probably have some gameplay in the background. And like I mentioned, we'll have some Lackey gameplay coming later this week, so you guys can actually see how the game works in action. And yeah, I'm pretty excited for my cannibal ice cream.
I'm doing office supplies. Super exciting.
Yeah, so like I said, it's all casters all week. I mean, we'll have a little bit of Force of Will for the news, but it's pretty much all casters all week, and then we'll switch back to our normal schedule next week. But let us know what you guys think of casters. If something you guys are going to want to see covered a lot more, or maybe just minimally and stuff like that, just let us know in the comments below, or join our Discord and let us know, or join our Patreon, where we're able to one-on-one interact with you and do a lot of cool stuff where you get behind-the-scenes videos, like one that was we just posted earlier today of our fun little conversations we have.
Oh, you posted that already?
Yeah, I posted that right away.
Also, if you're wanting more information on how to play casters, we'll have a link in the description below of what we're looking at and what we use to learn the game, as well as a card database, so you can start looking over cards already.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Looks like they're gearing up for pretty fun stuff. But yeah, make sure to subscribe to keep up with this, and we'll talk to you guys next time.
See ya.